Wow. Who am I? I am Ale Rivera, Puerto Rican here living in DC. I feel like I am trying to be that, how do you say that word? The provider that walks with you.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I've been trying to set myself to be.
Jesus did that. The footprints in the sand.
It's not about me being in front, or like, it's really walking with people and like in their humanity and their experiences and their life and struggles, and how art can be a really good asset in that process. So yeah, that's me.
Mental Health Monday.
Mental Health Monday.
As long as you're able to lean back comfortable or move around, because like, I don't know if you're someone who talks with your hands, and people who do talk with their hands, you might.
Yes, hasta Latina myself. That's all I do. That's all I do.
All right, so let's get started. What are we starting with today?
I don't know. Background, what your curiosities?
I do intros like at the end. I don't do those at the beginning. So cool. Yeah, because it's just like the conversation needs to be able to just happen. That.
Okay.
Yeah, instead of like feeling tight and saying, "Damn, what have I done? What have I accomplished? Why am I here?" That's.
I like that.
Yeah.
I feel like we already have started with like what you were saying before.
Oh, okay.
We kind of did.
So let's pick a color. Actually, no. Lead me in the way that you would lead a art therapy session. Do you call it that, or what do you call it?
Yeah, we do.
We
do.
Okay, so that's a topic there. All right.
Yes, but at the same time, maybe explaining like the differences that art therapy is and what art therapy is not too. That's something else.
Okay.
Yeah, but I can lead you in. Do we start now?
Oh yeah, no, we're in it.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, this is everything.
I love that. Okay, so let's see. I think if we would start simple in a session, definitely a lot of things happen prior to that. It's like taking an intake and seeing how their cultural background is and their age and their support system. We have a lot of information before we start a session. So when we go right ahead into it, we understand a little bit about triggers or things that we should not do starting. But if we can start something simple, maybe today choose a color that's really connecting to your feeling right now. And we can start by one, and then we can continue with emotions. Let's say that. Like if I say happy, you choose that color for happy. Or stuff like that. And then we can, but for now, let's just choose one color for that one feeling you're feeling, and then we'll build it up.
So base.
Yeah.
Okay.
So this is your palette. You can take this. I know it's a Canva, but you can use that.
So what's a palette used for when we do this? What's a palette used for when we do this? Is it like to test colors out?
Yes.
Okay.
But you can put them here, and then stuff can mix up. So you can do that.
Cool beans.
Yeah.
It's ironic because the color you picked was the first color I was going to pick.
Really?
Yeah.
There's so many variations. Yeah. Okay.
Should I be careful how I squeeze this?
Yeah, it comes out a little. You should pop it on the side, and then it usually comes.
I haven't done one of these in a while. I think last time I used one of these was like doing work with my dad when we were like painting the roof. Not the roof, but the attic in our house in New Jersey.
That brings me curiosity, because like sometimes you mentioned that being in a setting that you had to help your dad, but like sometimes we don't stop to do things like this because we have to take so much out of our day. But then I don't know, I feel like this time is like one time to be mindful in the moment and present when you're doing stuff like this. So yeah, just I don't know.
Naturally we're busy, but sometimes I wonder if we're busy because we're actually busy, or if our priorities changing have really made us put everything but ourselves first.
That part, because I think something that out there is always sometimes it's a little bit overrated that people use the word self-care too much in ways that sometimes it's not even self-care.
Yeah.
So then it can get confusing at the moment when you actually need to have self-care.
I think there's levels to what self-care actually is and what it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
And the reason that all this stuff that we're doing is important is because we have let corporations into our homes in a way that we don't think about. So like, you know how when you get to work in a lot of places, they tell you leave what you have going on at home.
Yeah.
And it's like, can you really tell someone whose baby hasn't been able to get like a real meal in like the last 2 weeks to leave at home and this job that they're trying to protect is the only way to put food on the table? I don't know.
Right, that. Thanks. The reason I'm here is because of the life I had to live. Like, that's one of those disconnections, I feel like, that. And I'm not sure if it's an American thing necessarily, because I know of cultures that sometimes it's completely different. You know, they take naps in the middle of the day.
When I heard about that as a student, I was like, wait, so you get to go to work, and then take naps, eat some tapas, and then go back to work.
Go back.
And like, no one complains. You're not talking about like 30 minutes. You're talking about like 2 hours.
Yeah, let's take 2 hours.
2 hours.
Sleep, get some wine, do some errands if you have to.
Errands.
Sleep and like come back.
And your time is paid for and respected.
Yeah.
And there's no one that's pressuring you saying, why isn't this done yet?
Yeah.
I was watching this YouTube channel. I think it was How Money Works. And it was saying that right now, Americans are the most productive country compared to any other country, but we're also the country that has the least amount of care for person per capita. When you look at how many people exist within a country that are productive and have the tools and the capability to be productive, but now it's squeezing out that productivity as much as you can. So there's no rest.
That says a lot.
Yeah.
That says a lot. Because part of the mental health part of humans is what they are doing in their daily basis.
Yeah. And that's what humanity should be. Yeah.
So it comes back when you mentioned, like, I don't remember what part you said, but it was like the human essence that we all have. We need rest.
Yeah.
We need to do our stuff that we're interested in and work and eat, but we need to sleep. We need to enjoy our family members, enjoy, I don't know, other things that are not necessarily professional too.
And I think we need to make space to actually get to know each other in terms of like our coworkers and the people that are around us outside of what can they do for us after this conversation's done.
Yeah, precisely.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that has to do with gaining from the human experience. I feel like sometimes it gets a little blurred.
I think that word is overused also too.
Right? Which one?
Experience. I remember when the reason people were using the word experience is because they felt they weren't getting enough out of life.
Whoa.
And then after that, at some point, I think about a half a year ago, the word experience started becoming a marketing branding ploy of, oh, when you show up to this thing, it's an experience.
Gotcha.
When you leave, you've left with an experience you've never had before. And it's like, sometimes that may be true, but when you overuse the word experience,
it takes out.
Yeah, you kind of set this bar really high that like, can you really give someone a new experience every single time you've bumped into them with the thing that you've put together?
Right.
Because it's like, you know, how many, like, when you wake up in the day, depending on how much sleep you have, whoever you are, what you wake up with, that's what you have for the whole day. So if you're chasing experiences every single time you leave your house and you're chasing experiences that are supposed to be the peak of something, how are you ever going to be able to enjoy the little things if you're always chasing a peak all the time?
Yeah, I was gonna ask you, like, what would be that definition of that experience? Because like it feels like it's that expectation that it's like bigger than life.
I think it's just a word that's used for hype, and people don't really think about what they've put together, what they're doing. So, like, for example, coming out of the pandemic, prior to the pandemic, I was doing wellness events where folks could shop for their therapist called We Bring the Therapist to the Function. And we did that from 2018 to 2020. And in 2019 to 2020. And in 2020, we were actually going to do like a whole tour. We were going to do Texas, New York, Philly, because the year before we had already done Philly and DC. And we were trying to figure out how do we get money together and everything else. And back then we were like, how do we put together an event and normalize people getting therapy without feeling out of place that they want help for something that they've never had before and they don't know what they're supposed to get from this thing. But they know that marketing companies like Better whatever, because they're not really a good company. We're trying to market it to them.
Yeah.
And then after the whole pandemic situation started, I was like, all right, how do we put together an event where folks can not shop for their therapist, but get different versions of wellness and a better inner voice? Because since everyone was inside the houses and they've been like just sitting with themselves and their own voices, all right, what kind of voice are you going to have after having a year and a half of just your own time and managing other people's spaces? And how do you change that?
In your own brain too. In your own head.
So we basically came up with an event where folks can take words of encouragement and words to say to themselves daily to recalibrate who they may have been to themselves in the pandemic coming back out into the world.
That is beautiful. That is actually amazing. Wow.
And we did that at the Whitman Walker complex on 14th Street when they were there. And after that, we didn't do any more events.
Live stuff.
Yeah, because I was just like, I'm not going to go broke to do all these great things. No, I like being able to pay my bills and do things for the community and still have food in my fridge.
And I think that's a misconception. Like, that could actually happen. It's just like structure and like, you know, planning makes it happen. And like also funding, you know.
Yeah.
Finding ways from the government to like get you funded. There's so many grants out there that sometimes people just don't know.
Or your position isn't really positioned well for it.
So, I don't know. I always think of community like one of my purposes. Like, there's no way that I could do anything without community. I don't think that's even, I don't know.
I have a rule that you shouldn't do things unless it loves you back.
Ooh.
Even if it's an inanimate object or a project that you're working on. Because like a labor of love usually means you have to create a capacity that you may not have.
Gotcha.
In order to keep that love going. And if you make too many things a labor of love, or you fall in love with the concept of a labor of love, you may miss the point that love is supposed to be a two-way street.
Yeah. And I don't know about me, but I feel like I also believe that it comes back to you. I know that it could be a little cliche, but I have never experienced an act that I've given forward that has never given me back eventually. Like, every energy that you put out there, karmatic energy, is going to come back eventually.
Yeah. But that also means that you may not realize it, but you may be good at picking a certain quality of person who they naturally would like to give back, not what you've given them, but a version of what love and appreciation looks like for them. And that's what you get to experience with the person.
Right.
Which is nice, because not a lot of people have that keen eye of surrounding themselves with those people. And sometimes surrounding yourselves with people isn't just friendships. Sometimes it's your associates. Sometimes it's the lady on the street who sells oranges that you just love to talk to her for 5 minutes. And she always gives you an orange because like that conversation brightens her day, and that gives her like 2 more hours of appreciation and love.
But see, that's what I my definition of human experience is that. So it's the little things like that. That I feel like are the soul fulfilling part of humanity. So
how do you apply that to your work?
I think when I started with combining, because I studied science at the beginning,
So you mean in terms of psychology or just science in general?
No, like
period?
I actually did natural sciences. So that
Define what a natural science is.
so you had to take all the physics, chemistries, biologies, organics. And my point there was to help the community in the medical sense, in specifically gynecology and like female reproduction. And I was like, this is gonna be it.
Yeah.
But then excluding the part of art of me, I couldn't do that. So I was like, how can I mesh this together? And I think part of the why was like, there has to be a way that art can heal community. Because it can heal people individually. I feel like that's a thing that when you sit down, you meditate, you know, connect with your own soul, you definitely heal. But how can we heal in a bigger, you know, how can I explain that? In a bigger sense of group that's not just the self. And I don't know, it just started with that.
Would you say it's heartbreaking how cold hospitals are when you look at the colors in a hospital and the placements of said colors?
Yeah, that was one of the things that I always maybe dreamt of, having a center with like, that was not white and like metally and
even down to the lighting.
Yes, even the lighting.
Yeah.
It's too cold.
It's like they want you to be a dead body by the time you get in there.
It's crazy. It's crazy. And there again, I think it again comes back to culture too, because there's a difference between prevention and then having to be in the hospital, and like they set the hospital for you to be, I don't know, there are more time that you need to. So I don't know if the settings artistically made like that. Yeah. You know. Before we keep going, I feel like if you want to channel the emotion of happiness, that'd be great.
That's actually funny because I was like, I'm just going to go to yellow because I feel like yellow is my happy color. I did green, and when I looked at it, I was like, this green isn't the shade of green that I'd like. It was too dark. So I was like, I'm going to start with yellow. Okay, there you go. So yellow. I came back. If there's a layered color to complement yellow, do we have any pinks here?
You have this one right there.
This right here?
Yep.
Okay.
And I have a peach type one here. Yeah.
So, how is your work implemented exactly?
So, in many ways, what I do, for example...
Should I wash these brushes off or just mix it?
We can have water if you want, but right now...
Do you use water?
Sometimes I don't.
Okay, well, we're not going to use water then.
Sometimes I know, because like it gets you to challenge on like, where do I scrape it? Do I take it off? Do I mix it? Yeah. So stuff like that. Again, community. I right now work in a site that's very connected to having private practice, but at the same time, we give art therapy to community outside in our area. So it's been very fulfilling to make the connections and start planning for them to have even just at least one intern, for example, in their space that they can work with different populations. So it's
is that how you open the doors to community?
I feel like it is, because sometimes there's a wall between
huge wall
services.
Yeah, it's huge.
That it needs to be braked. I don't know how to say it. It needs to be destroyed.
So when I was growing up in East Orange, New Jersey, I was a patient advocate in high school from like my freshman year all the way up to my senior year. And I would always get a little bit peeved at the placement of the community outreach, which was a truck in the parking lot of the hospital. And I was like, how is this community outreach if we're still at work? That's not community outreach. You just told them, come here and look at a different part of the hospital. That's not... How is that community or outreach if we haven't given them anything that they don't already pass by and look at?
Yeah, we're not going anywhere but here.
And they would always reframe it on, but they're getting testing for this, and like, look what we're doing. And it's like, yeah, that's the issue. Look at what you're doing. I was like, is that a budget thing? Is that a liability thing? I talked to a lot of people about the word liability in America and how I feel that really gets in the way of like really getting work done. We can't do that because of the liability of this, the liability of that, and the liability of this. But it's like, well, if you're looking to heal people, the word liability is always going to stand in the way of actually getting the work done.
It limits everything.
Yeah.
It limits everything.
And it's like, how much of that liability thing that you guys are spreading and speaking on is actually dealing with us helping people, or is it dealing with, well, it affects our bottom line if we were to do it that way?
Right. Because sometimes it's not even about the other. It's more about the inside security problems. And
the thing that they don't want to talk about out loud, because if they do, it's going to be a discussion topic, and
no.
woe is me in the day that they figure out, oh no, we're actually not doing the right thing because of reasons outside of what we told them. Yeah.
So part of that, it's definitely getting the feedback also back. Like you actually need to get in there in the street, get in the community, get in the recreational centers to see what they need. It's not just like, oh, we can get the service to them and we have this pre-planned thing. No, it should never be like that, because every population has their own needs. And there's always differences too. So
like how I made sure not to set the cameras up until we had the art up.
There you go.
And then I was like, all right, well, we'll set the cameras up now.
You kind of set it up like that, But for example, that truck, maybe they would have impacted, people from the area, but maybe they didn't even ask if that community needed that.
Yeah.
Maybe that truck would be more useful in another space.
But then that's when marketing gets in the way of the work too. We get this big truck so we could put posters of our services and what we're looking to do for folks in the community up. But like, the truck doesn't really serve a purpose outside of being a big billboard that advertises this hospital is here, even though people are in the parking lot of the hospital that's already there. That everybody's aware of.
There you go. So intentionality always comes with the work. If there's no intention, true intention. Or if it's like that, conflicted, or just like, I don't know, disguised. I don't know how would it impact as well as a genuine, interaction.
Yeah.
That's funny.
When you are done with the intake process, what's usually your next action item for the patient your client, that you're going to be working on? Well, working with, not just on.
So it's very interesting because in our program, they really get you educated on all the parts, and when you have an intake, that is actually one of the most important, because you can see right away from like not even knowing anything about the person what they can say about their essence, what they do, what they're needing, if they're caregivers, if they've been through anything in their life that they want to work in. But at the same time, things usually don't just come up quickly. So a lot of the intake is just us trying to figure out in the beginning or in the present what they need, and slowly it just comes out. So I don't think the way they just teach us to, it's like it always has to be something very intentional, and the intake gets you that part, because then you can see if, for example, our site is 24 emergency hours that we can assist you, or is it not, then that client cannot be attended with us, but then there's referrals that you can do in different specific areas. So without an intake, you really don't have the backbone to start therapy, which that's why not everything can be called art therapy. Like, for example, right now, we're definitely making art and we're talking, and this is a conversation that really like deepen, conversation between humans. But therapy is way more than that, because we have to include treatment. We have to include all of these other history parts that it needs confidentiality. It definitely needs a safe space that's not out there seen for others. So it's like the parameters are really different.
What would you say are the 5 pillars of a safe space when it comes to art therapy? And if you don't have 5, if you're like, these 3 would do, I think 5 kind of blurs things. It's fine.
I can say the word we usually use better is peaceful place.
Okay.
Because sometimes not everybody knows what a safe space is. So sometimes that word can also be triggering when you're talking in a therapy session.
Because when you think about the amount of people who told you were safe and,
and then
you
that
were
was
betrayed,
exactly.
There could be an expectation of it's safe for now.
Right.
Yeah.
So when, we have trainings, it's like, peaceful place seems less in hyperarousal is really more like, okay, where can it be, or where can I create my peaceful space? So maybe 3 pillars definitely are a space that the human feels calm. It's really hard to have therapy or be in therapy when you're in hyperarousal.
Could you define what hyperarousal is?
Yeah, of course. So there's this concept of window of tolerance that we use a lot, and there's an area of hyperarousal and then hypoarousal. So when we go into flight or flight mode, usually we go to both ways, or we get super hyper in the fact of being very emotional, expressing those parts like outside aggressively, or being very anxious all the time. That it's being in a hyper state. But some people go into hypo, and then they go to enclosing themselves, or just like feeling low all the time, low energy. It doesn't mean that they're not feeling a lot. They're just feeling it differently than others, right? So when you have, for example, a client that's in hyperarousal in a session, you're going to see that immediately. So there's ways that we try to first work with that before even assessing art, because we need them to be okay and calm and know that everything's here safe in this space together.
Okay.
So I think that would be one. The second is being very conscious of culture and background and diversity, because sometimes it can get blurred that every therapy is like the same, which it's not when it comes to culture, because therapy is very different in different cultures. Like, for example, it could be a taboo in China to go to therapy, or in Puerto Rico, like now people are starting to talk about like mental health, for example. So the way they approach it too comes from a cultural background, or comes from that cultural shock that they're experiencing with the other therapists. Because you can be with me right now, and even if we were the same race or identity, it's like there is a cultural exchange we're having.
Our days are completely different.
Exactly. Like it doesn't matter even the age or race, like we're still having a cultural experience. So I would be that the second. And the third, creativity. There's no way that you can have a peaceful space without that, because we need to feel like we can create without being judged. So I would say those 3. Yeah.
Okay, good job, you.
Yeah. Thank you.
When it comes to the commodifying of art, when it comes to like sipping paints, or seeing people do art therapy events publicly, are there things that you usually look for to let you know, okay, this is an art therapy group session that's being done correctly, versus you're just looking to get $1?
Right.
Yeah.
So I came across this week, actually. It was very interesting. They were doing like a paint gene type of thing, and they put it in the advertisement, like art therapy workshop. But they didn't have anybody also certified with art therapy in the space, or assigned. And I was like, okay, so it just seems like, when it's art therapy, for sure, it's when it's like actually supervised.
Take your time.
Sorry.
I was going to say, take your time.
Because like,
You don't have to apologize. You're fine. We're in the moment right now, so.
Because when it's like workshops that feel like art is involved, it's not necessarily always art therapy. Because you're not challenging, you're not, how to say that word, channeling all of the history that comes with therapy.
How many languages do you know?
Oh, Spanish and English.
Okay. Yeah, the reason I ask is one of my friends who I just interviewed recently, she's actually the most recent interview I did, Angwe.
Oh, I think I saw it.
She knows 4 different languages. And crazy. She told me that, like, when you know so many languages, no matter what, you have to translate. When someone asks you a question, you have to translate through all the languages first before you answer them, so you know what language you're answering them back in correctly.
She's right.
Yeah.
That's what happened.
So, and like I could see it, and I was like, oh, wow, this is, even if you only know like a limited amount, you still have to do that.
I still do it.
Yeah.
But yeah, let me do it again. Okay. So, what I was trying to say is that
channeling.
That part of channeling the emotions and the history that comes with therapy, you don't get that in a group setting like a sip and paint because you're paying for an experience to make art, but you're not connecting that to any treatment or any type of progress emotionally.
Yeah. You're
just having an experience with paint and canvases, and it's definitely a good approach to get people to start painting. That is definitely something that's, I feel like it's positive. And then they get together, it's a social interaction, but there's no therapy component.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it can be cataloged like that.
Would it be possible to create an art therapy event if you have a therapist on deck?
Yes, we've done that. We do have, for example, in the internship I am right now.
You mind if I switch the colors?
Oh, what?
Do you mind if I switch the colors?
Yes, switch colors.
Okay.
Should we do...
What should this color represent?
Let's do anger.
Anger? Ooh, that's gonna take a while to figure out which one that is.
Let's go anger.
Okay.
Yeah. I forgot what I was gonna try to say. Yeah, take your time. Sometimes, also the part of like selecting colors by emotions, people usually try to get the emotion that everybody thinks is connected to that, but usually everybody has their own expression of that feeling. So
that's funny.
For me, purple could be anger, but then for you is sadness.
I was gonna pick purple.
What is happening?
I was gonna pick purple, and then I said, wait, let's really think about this.
Yeah.
I think, and it might be different for folks, I think the color you're avoiding is usually the color that anger is associated with. And most people, well, let me not assume most. Some people would like their day to be a good day. So when you're trying to start your day out, you usually pick a color that you really enjoy. This is a cool color.
Yeah.
This keeps me grounded and everything else. But the color that's usually least in your closet is probably the color that's associated with that emotion. And what's funny is when I thought of this color, I thought of how much as a kid in middle school and in high school, I wore this color all the time. And I was like, oh yeah, that's gonna be the color.
That's it.
That's the color. Good old light blue.
Light blue. Which is interesting because, for example, for me, light blue is like super calming. But then you can see.
That's what the professionals say.
Exactly. But then, like, all the experiences that we have are different. Because let's say I had a bully that always wore an orange shirt. I'm gonna relate to that color.
Yeah.
And that emotion or what I was feeling in that moment.
When you do intake, do you ever have a bunch of color palettes in front of the people that you do work with and say, hey, how does this make you feel? Or does do you get a certain feeling from this?
So the intakes actually are non-art form. We don't do
just
art.
Completely no art, no color, no nothing.
The
not
first
even picking
time,
it.
we don't even do art, actually. We're just talking about the person.
Yeah.
We intertwine art making in the first and second and third sessions and then so on. But most professionals will let you know that usually we mostly do talk therapy most of the time, because sometimes people are not even used to making art, so then it takes time to get them to start with something. But yeah, we definitely have a lot of directives connected to what they need. Some are assessments that are definitely like research based.
Yeah.
And those are really helpful because you can get a lot of information and you can record. How do you say that word?
Record. You were close. You got it. You got it. I think for that one, that was just a pronunciation moment.
Sorry.
You were there.
Yeah. You can like do the record of like them progressing from, like, let's say that you did an assessment the first year you were meeting with them.
Yeah.
And then at the second year you did it again, and how the progress went, or how did they interact images or colors, or it's really impressive. I've been learning so much. It's been amazing. Yeah.
Have you ever thought of what life would be like without art? Oh, that's a moment. That sound was a moment right there. That was a moment right there. I apologize if that was too personal.
No. I don't know. I don't think I've ever envisioned my life without it. Wow, that's very interesting. I think no, because even nature is art itself by itself.
That's technically what inspires art.
That should inspire everything in life, to be honest. Because with nature, we're nothing, to be honest. Sometimes there's this perception that we control our surroundings.
Oh, we don't.
And that nature is just like one aspect in our lives, and that, it's just, no.
No, it's not conforming
it's our
to us
habit.
at all.
It's our habitat. Like, we are animals in nature. Like, they, the environment has everything above us.
Yeah.
So.
I think in the household I grew up in, we didn't have a lot of art, because it was like, look, you need to get your education, you need to get a good job.
Yeah.
If you don't do those things, you're going to struggle. And we didn't come here Jamaican in order for you to struggle.
Yeah.
So I didn't have a lot of art moments.
I'm curious if it was because art was connected to having luxury.
I think art was connected to people take advantage of the artists. And if you were an athlete, that was connected to a talent that other people would get to use that you would never get to fulfill.
Gotcha.
And you would never really be paid your just due for what your actual value is.
Gotcha.
So my parents were big on, look, you get the education, no one could ever take that away from you.
Which is very interesting, because I also think that nobody can take the art out of me. But, it's that concept of integrating it. Because I do remember my mom having that background. She exposed me to it early on. So I definitely, it's a privilege, because I do see where there's families that really can't make it happen because there's no resources, or there's not simply communities that they can give, they can get their kids to. Yeah. But there's so many ways to make it happen. Like, there's so many ways to integrate it that it's not a luxury. Yeah. Because I think that's what gets it to be a bigger wall. Because it gets to that zone of like, no, the rich do that. Yeah. The people that have money do that. We cannot do art therapy. That's super elitistic. Like, no.
And then your life starts to be framed by other people who aren't even a part of your life.
Right. So, again, access and like trying to bring down that wall is definitely one of the things that I want to really focus on when I'm done.
I think what's hilarious to me is I was always a kid, like, if you put me on punishment, you really struggled to be like, well, how do we punish him? Because, like, telling me to go on timeout was a really good punishment, because, like, I don't have an issue with being by myself. Right. And then saying, well, you can't play video games, I'd be like, well, that's fine. I played Final Fantasy X because like I enjoyed the way the art and the concept was like done up, but I wasn't really great at the game. So you're telling me to stop playing the game I wasn't really all that great at, that I was just glad I got to play the game itself. So
yeah.
Yeah.
So you're trying to put it against me, but
it's not really working out, buddy.
That's so funny. It's hilarious. But yeah.
So within your work, and you're growing right now in terms of
I'm definitely learning
how
right
that
now.
should look like for you. What would you say your favorite part of putting together your craft has been so far?
Wow, that's a good question, because when getting in the program is really, they put like, oh, you'll learn from all of these populations, and usually you go in thinking you're only going to work with kids, or you're only going to work with a certain type of population.
Was that the assumption you had going in?
I feel like for me, I wanted to work with elderly.
Okay.
But then in the process of this year, I've been seeing how it impacts any age, and it's been really amazing. So, one of my plans, and this is very futuristic, one of the things I feel like I do a lot is manifesting, but like you can't manifest without action.
Yeah.
So it always has to be connected with that. And in the future, I really do want to like start a center that's accessible, that feels that people can go to. You can bring family, females, pregnant women, kids, elderly, into a space that feels like they can have art therapy accessible. For example, in PR, I want to really do it in PR.
Public relations.
Oh my gosh, Puerto Rico.
Oh, Puerto Rico. I was gonna say, to be sure.
Every time I do that, I forget that's like the relationship of saying PR. But yeah, and who knows where life's gonna take me, to be honest. Maybe I'll start in a private practice or in a community center here, and then we'll, get those skills. But yeah, I wouldn't never want to not have my work without community. That doesn't exist for me. Like I don't see the advantages of that.
I like the way you say community. I actually just had an interview with one of my homies who was one of the original people that started Get Home Safe with me 2 days ago. And I was telling her that I'm glad that when we say community, we have an actual relationship with the community, and we go back to the community instead of using the word community as just a plot device for when we want attention from people.
Oh no, yeah. That would be really bad if that would be the case. And that is usually the case. Unfortunately.
Yeah.
But no, not for me.
So what does the community of Puerto Rico mean to you?
It's just very interesting because I think there's a before the Hurricane Maria and after. And again, part of it is resources and knowing how people have been like trying to sustain again with like economics and like family having to leave and coming to the States, or ruptures of relationships. And the way that I would like to contribute, because something that I've seen and we've read in articles all the time is the survivors complex of people trying to fix or be this hero in this community, or like be the center of attention. Yeah. That's not what it is. Like service to the community, it's never about you. So if anything, I used to like my hometown is in the mountains in the center. So usually there's a lot of work done in the city areas. Yeah. Again, private practices or any other connections in the metro area, but I want to bring it to the rural parts. Okay. And I know it's a challenge because I don't think it's been done necessarily so organically. But yeah, I feel like it can happen. So.
Would you say the problems you may run to would have to be the spreading of resources correctly?
That part. That part, and also maybe getting the community comfortable. Because it's going to be uncomfortable at the beginning.
You mean in terms of bringing therapy and mental health to that community?
Yes, or just like letting them know that it's a safe space and it's not just art making. Like we're here to make connections, and we're here to heal from all this like generational trauma. So that part is always, uncomfortable at the beginning. But yeah, I believe in the human. I believe in hope and having, even in dark times, love is always, how's that word? Triumphant? Triumphant.
Yeah.
And I live a life of love, so I feel like that's also like always a pillar in my work, and I don't know, I have no doubts.
Where does your love come from?
Ooh, this question. Where does it come from? Okay, we're going deep in this. This is Juice Place. The questions. Okay, where does the love come from? Wow. It's interesting we talked about nature before, because every time I was raised in top of a mountain.
Yeah.
So every time I've seen true unconditional love is always connected to nature.
Yeah.
Like the way it just like reblooms, and it's resourceful, and I don't know. Part of the way I was raised, it was connecting to the earth and connecting to all that's beautiful, but also like sad, and that has to die, and that has to like, come to the cycles. So it comes from nature, it comes from family, and connection. Yeah.
Well, good job, you. I'm glad you have that to pull from.
Thank you.
It would suck if I asked you a question. You're like, man, come on, bro. Like, I don't got that. That's crazy, man.
No.
I just got off work, man. This is the topic.
Which I did. No. I'm so into like having deep conversations all the time, and I feel like that's not something that people like to do. But
I think it depends on who it's with, because sometimes it's like, all right, imagine if you had a friend where every conversation with them is a deep conversation, and it's like, yo, so we have no surface, like everything is like granite and what's underneath the ground. Like, I don't know how many minerals we're gonna touch on in this conversation,
right now,
man. That's a lot.
Not today.
Yeah.
I know what you mean.
Let's just drink the glass of water and be glad that we're here today. Please.
Yeah, I like that. I get that. Maybe we can do a last emotion. Or are we done? What time is it? I don't know what time it is.
I don't know what time. Would you happen to know what time it is? 5? 5:12. Oh, we got time.
Sure? Okay.
Yeah, no, we got time.
Okay.
I could go until 5:40.
Okay.
Yeah. What did you paint? Oh, you paint so different from me.
Yeah.
Look at what I did.
Let's see. That is cool.
Yeah,
Wait, let's
I have no idea what it is.
Wait, doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Let's do a last emotion.
Okay.
Let's do pride.
Pride. Ugh. I got a lot of that.
Let's do pride.
What color is that? Oh, I know what color pride is. Which color did you pick?
Like purple.
What? Well, you're putting them together.
Yeah.
You're mixing them. So that's because I did mixes twice.
You can mix.
Yeah.
But it's purple.
What does purple and blue make? Is that blue or is that a lilac?
It's like periwinkle.
Okay. Periwinkle is always such a funny color.
It's a funny color. People say it's purple, people say it's blue.
Oh, it's periwinkle. Who came up with that name?
I don't know. Mystical being. But yeah. Gray.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because most of the time you run into pride, you don't realize how much of it is in the room.
We're going with gray.
Yeah, gray.
That's so interesting. I think why I chose purple It's because sometimes, yes, it's been seen as a negative.
Purple?
To have no, like pride. But sometimes, for example, when working with teenagers, sometimes happens that they don't understand what it is to feel proudful, or like being proud of who they are, or being proud of what they've done so far, or how can they be proud to like continue in the future. So I think that's why I did purple, because it's like, I don't know.
I think pride as a concept is funny. Because they tell you, hey, don't have too much pride, but the same people also tell you, hey, take pride in your work.
That's, yeah.
And it's like, wait, so is this good or bad?
Yes.
Or does it depend on what the expectancy of me is?
Yeah. Oh, right there. but I that's what I mean. Like, sometimes the why we do what we do, it's because we believed in ourselves enough to do that.
Yeah.
I remember starting doing murals and actually having to go inside and being like, can I actually do this? Do I believe in myself?
Is that technique you're using on your canvas called grading?
This one?
Yeah. Where you just dot things.
Yes. Also people, I know it in Spanish. It's puntillismo, but it's definitely like grading. I usually start like this and then I evolve. In other things, I don't know.
I was one and now I'm the other. Pay me.
Yes. But yeah. Colors. I like that we have different palettes.
Same. I like that my cameras aren't overheating.
Nope. There we go. I'm glad to.
I looked around. I said, hey, man, you guys are doing a pretty good job today.
I would hate if that happens.
Usually at the 40-second mark, they're like, hey, man, yo, you going kind of long. That's kind of crazy. Why? Yeah, I know we got a dummy battery, but we not dummies. It's kind of wild, man. You think we just going to hold up for the whole fight? That's crazy.
That's funny. I feel like videography is also an art form. You guys
I didn't think of it that way until I realized that I really cared about. So, to me, art's presentation and expression, right? Yeah. And what you're trying to do is you're trying to get as close to not just the message, but how you would like the person that you're interviewing to be seen and digested.
Gotcha.
So sometimes you just want people to hear a person's stories, and sometimes you want people to feel a person's story. And those are different moments. Completely different. Sometimes when someone talks, you don't cut them off and you let them like have their pauses in between. You don't fill that with words. Yeah. Or like, what kind of lighting you going for? Like, being in bright rooms all day is actually really exhausting.
No, I bet. I'm a like yellow tone kind of person. I don't know. And obviously, this lights have their purpose. You're capturing the shadows and like all that, but
there's a reason your eyes are tired after you turn it off.
Oh my gosh, yeah. But I definitely do think it's an art form. It's an expression. You're editing people's stories. Like that's
people are trusting you.
You're caring. Yeah, people are trusting that you're gonna depict them in the way obviously that you see them, because I don't feel like everybody can depict anybody in the perfect way. That's kind of impossible. Yeah. But it's a really trusting, vulnerable process. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's people whose interviews I haven't put out that I shot 2 years ago because I didn't either have the right editors or have the right people that I felt I could trust with their content. Who sometimes I wake up and I'm like, hey man, you need to call that person and give them an apology.
Just letting you know.
Just give them an apology. Because they were as honest as they could have been in that sit down. And like, it's unfair to sit down and have these intimate conversations with people which may not be intimate to you as the person who does it, but it's intimate to them because they never really got a chance to say that out loud in front of people that cared. Exactly. And now it's like you locked it away in a safe? Oh, no, that's crazy.
That precise description, it's an experience that happens in therapy because ruptures also happen.
Define a rupture.
A rupture in a therapeutic relationship, it's when it's a moment specifically when sometimes the client or the therapist just can't click, or something happens, like they share some information confidentially and they don't feel like they're being held, or like the therapist is like trustworthy, or something happens, and sometimes it's not even nobody's fault.
Yeah.
It's just like the way something was said, or
today just happens to be the
today
day.
it just wasn't a day.
Yeah.
And you know, a rupture, you can always come back, but it takes, you know, that time. So when you mentioned that, I was like, whoa, like, because that is what therapy holds, like the space for vulnerability and confidentiality. That's why it's therapy, because there's no way that they can let you know all of those things in settings that they're not safe in.
Yeah.
So yeah.
When you first found out about the concept of art therapy, what was your reaction that this thing existed in this medium?
Yeah. First, I freaked out because I was like, "Whoa! I've been painting my whole life."
Define your whole life, like since you like grabbed
Since in the
color
womb.
and you was like, "Yo, man, so I'm in the womb, right?" But I heard the color
womb.
red, and I knew Picasso.
I say all my life, but it's because of also generational, like my mom, you know, that stuff. But yeah, I think I've painted since I'm like 4 or 5.
Okay.
But knowing that was a healing practice for me without the therapeutic aspect, I was like, whoa, there's an actual space for creating healing in a different way that's not just talking and like CBT or treatments. So
CPT.
oh my gosh, wait. Cognitive based therapy.
Okay, cool.
Okay. So we also have kind of those CBT treatments in our therapy, but we mix it with art, which is completely different than just having the basic talk therapy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you see a world where the concept of art therapy is layered onto other things? So, for example, I'm not a therapist.
Yeah.
I'm just an advocate for therapists and wellness. I tell folks this all the time. But as of late, I'm getting hired for speaking engagements that have to do with mental health. So when I do these speaking engagements, for example, I just did one on Monday for that was through the mayor's office. I let them know, hey, I'm an advocate, so I could connect you to the therapist that I work with, but today it's not about me. I'm just hired.
Right.
And I'm here to create a vulnerable space for you guys. But you work for the government, and the government doesn't really support mental health and therapy. So that means someone on staff hired us to come here to tell you, hey, man, it's okay to get therapy, but just don't let your job know. So
It's just don't. Just don't.
So with that being said, I'm going to tell you what it is that I do, why I'm here.
Yeah.
And we're going to talk about mental hygiene. And when I was there, I like just came out the shower, put on a suit, and I went there, but I was still wet from the shower. I purposely didn't dry myself off. And I was like, you know, I came here straight out the shower because I want to show you guys what good hygiene looks like. I took a shower, I came out, there was like conditioner, shampoo, soap. That's everything that's no longer on me because I've washed it, but now I'm wet because like my hair holds heat. So when it comes to you guys, how do you define hygiene? And then how do you define mental hygiene in your life? And I just want you to answer one question. The first question is, you know, what's one thing that you can work on for yourself? Right? And then the second question, which you don't answer in front of me, you answer in the privacy of your own home when nobody's around you, is why aren't you allowing yourself to do that thing? And that's it. Yeah. And it was interesting because I saw people who work together, which is, it's fascinating when people who've worked together for years and work so closely, because this is one department that I was doing the speaking engagement with, they shared things and you could tell that person didn't know and that person didn't know, and they probably work in the same office.
Every
and
day.
now, that's painted the picture for them a little bit more. Yeah. And the guy was like, you guys did an amazing job. And I said, I really hope that this helps your office not only perform well, but actually get closer to each other. And it's not just about, all right, we need to get back to work.
Right.
Because I was like, when you show up to work, a lot of jobs and a lot of these companies are like, hey, we don't want the small talk. But the small talk is actually what drives people, what encourages people, and what makes them want to show up to the office to get these things done.
Yeah.
The thing they're trying to get back to after the job is just as important as the job, because that makes them work hard while they're at the job.
Exactly. The worth part. Yeah. Being worth in the space.
Yeah. So I was like, imagine there being a space where coworkers actually feel the worth that you feel for the thing. They feel the same way. And that's what makes everybody work harder versus cut the small talk and get back to work. Yeah. Sure, handle the thing that I was passionate about before I got hired. But the room itself seems to be sucking the air out of the thing that we enjoy.
And that right there, it's uncomfortable. Yeah. Like there needs to be a rupture in order to get the relationship back to its main purpose.
Yeah.
So that's why in our case ruptures are never a bad thing, because you can definitely come back stronger from them. That's amazing.
This looks like a dope pair of sneakers.
I love it. That's your expression right now. I'm glad we got to do this.
Me too. Kid mode activated. Yeah. I'm definitely looking forward to us doing 5 more sit downs.
You let me know.
Yeah, where we just talk.
I feel like there's a lot also with this topic that can be digested. But and I'm also excited when I'm out of the program and finished with the masters, because I feel like I can also talk more freely than having to be very limited.
The leverage. No, I got you.
Because there's
then the person can speak versus the therapist,
right?
And what they've put together.
Yeah. So I don't know. A lot of good things.
So who are you, and what would you like to be for the people that reach out to you?
Wow. Who am I? I am Ale Rivera, Puerto Rican here living in DC. I feel like I am trying to be that, how do you say that word? The provider that walks with you. That's what I've been trying to set myself to be.
Jesus did that. The footprints in the sand.
It's not about me being in front, or it's really walking with people and in their humanity and their experiences and their life and struggles, and how art can be a really good asset in that process. So yeah, that's me.
In what way has art loved you back?
Ooh. It has healed me in so many areas that I still think it's going to do the rest of my life. But I feel like because of that, it loves me back unconditionally. Yeah. Because it doesn't judge me. It doesn't look at me like I can't be a part of it. So it's healing, and that's love. Yeah.
Do you think it's correct for people to assume that healing means they'll be happy again?
Oh no. What I mean about healing, which is a concept, I'm glad you brought that up. We're all going to face emotions in every step of our life that are up and down and, tossing us around. What I mean for healing is that way of being able to have all the tools, or being able to express all those emotions in a way that we can let them out, feel free from that, and engage on how to be responsible with ourselves. Because when we do that, we can be everything. We can be love for others. We can be support or caregivers. But if we don't start with us, that's where the problem always comes back to.
Okay.
So, yeah.
So we're going to end this off with 2 questions. What are 3 pieces of advice you would give to someone looking for a good art therapist?
I say being genuine and being authentic.
Yeah.
If you're in a session and you don't feel connection, I think that's with everything, but if you don't feel connection, you should say something. Finalizing a therapeutic relationship, it's as important. Like, if you don't feel that you're progressing within yourself, just be authentic and saying the response what you need. So I feel like authenticity, and also not being afraid of exploring other cultures. 'Cause sometimes we get a different type of culture in a therapist, and then we assume rapidly that they cannot help us.
Yeah.
Because they haven't had the same experience as us. And sometimes you'll find so many similarities. But even that, the therapist is not there for them. The therapist is there for you.
Yeah.
So it's not even about what they're receiving from you. It's actually everything about you and how they can assess you in that process. So again, walking with you.
Yeah.
And as humans, we all have that same thing in common, being human.
Yeah.
So.
And I mean, a therapist is technically the mirror that's holding up towards yourself, and it just happens to have a voice.
Yep.
And I think the last question is, when it comes to the community that's raised you up to this point, what's a sentence or 2 that would encompass how you feel about what they've blessed you with, if it's been a blessing?
Yeah. I say resiliency. It's a big word. And then adaptability.
Okay.
I feel like the way I was raised, I had to be adaptable. And at the same time, it opens your eyes to be aware of so many things and being aware of other people's energies and other people's needs. And I don't know, I feel like part of being from PR has opened all the humanity in me, and it's a blessing. Like, I see them through everything I do. So yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, this has been another episode of Mental Health Monday. Appreciate everybody that was able to pull up. Me, my bonnet, Alex. Tony,
Thank you.
Appreciate you.
Tony was here.
All right, this is another episode. Thanks for chilling with us, painting with us, sipping with us. We should just call this sip and paint for fun. But anyway, see you guys later.
Bye.
Peace.
That was fun.
No, that was definitely awesome.
That's
Do I get
so
to keep
cool.
these?
You keep it.
Okay.
Duh.
I mean, what if you were like, nah, yo, we got to sell that in these streets,
No,
juice?
you're keeping that, and next time we see each other, you're building on it. So.
Am I?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
It's a
okay.
task.
That was good. That was a good trick. You got me. You got me.
I got you. Thank you so much. That was so
No,
good.
of course. As I was doing this, I was like, I'm not gonna paint the bottom. The canvas is a part of the art,
The canvas, yeah.
so that counts. I'm gonna let this dry.
You can let it dry, yeah. Thank you. This was so good. I definitely do all my borders at the end.
Oh, so that's what I was doing on the edges? Okay, because I was doing it, I was like, I should do the edges. I feel like I don't see enough complete edges.
But yeah, you can also put it in the floor when you're drying it.
Okay.
Because it sticks to everything, so it paints everything.
Okay.
Yeah.
How do you feel about the interview? Because you did a great job.
No, I was okay. I feel like the last one that I did was a week ago, and I was nervous on that one.
Do you think when you do interviews that sometimes the person running an interview can do a better job of like, hey man, let's make the person feel as comfortable as possible?
I feel like you did that because we didn't start like, which I thought we were gonna do.
That sucks.
And I hate that.
Oh god. You start from the top. Now we gotta actually care about what's going on.
I hate that. Fun. So it felt like really like a conversation, and that's what the point is.
I mean, that's technically what shows and podcasts are supposed to be, like actual conversations.
Yeah. I feel like sometimes they're too planned.
Yeah.
So I say this was really cool.
I don't plan my stuff. Right now, I used to have like a script, do a pre-sit down,
really?
all that other stuff, and it's like certain things need that kind of value production, and certain things are just like, oh, it was really nice just talking to you and enjoying the conversation. Yeah, good job, conversation in the room. Yeah.
No, but that's my feedback. It was really cool.
I appreciate that. Yeah. That's a work in progress. Yeah. And now I'm like, hey, bring people back, because
I'll definitely do that.
I think when I look at mental health and where everything is going, it's too much of a commodity and not enough understanding.
Yeah.
Hey, what am I receiving? What am I paying for?
Yeah.
How should I feel about these sessions that I've had, or these newer nuanced techniques? Because art therapy is a nuanced technique, right?
But it's been here since the 70s, 60s.
Yeah.
But the way that the research has come up, that's how we had to validate things outside in the world, because, people are like, that's fake. Like, you can never do therapy with art.
And it's like, actually you could. If you carry your focus, you can. Yeah.
But then, again, it's the service. Like, how do you put the standard that this is quality work and that you'll get the service back? But then, again, it has to be very authentic and very genuine.
Yeah.
And if it's not there, then that's where the marketing and all this stuff come in, and then you're paying for things that are empty and fake.
You got more wine than therapy. And there's nothing wrong with art therapy. I don't have like a mission of all these people doing sip and paints. No.
Yeah.
My issue is like, are we really delivering what we're promising the community, no matter who it is?
I think it's the labeling.
Yeah.
When you put that sip and paint is art therapy, then you're making a disservice.
Yeah.
So
and
it's
that
like
misunderstanding
reframing.
becomes popular.
Yeah.
And it's hard to fight popularity once people are like, no, this is what it is. And I'm like, oh, okay, all right,
Okay,
cool.
sure.
All right, yeah.
Go with that.
Just don't tell that to your kids.
Yeah.
Just cool.
Please don't.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I got you.
Yeah.
I got you.
Oh.
No, of course. Hey, was that charger good? Was it A1?
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Phenomenal. Thank you.
Good? You're good?
When you were quiet and chilling, I was like, I know it had to be phenomenal.
I was playing chess.